If we're being fully honest with ourselves, I feel like sometimes we hold people's brilliance against them unfairly. Wes Craven is a perfect example of that, because this guy, from his mind, we got Nightmare on Elm Street, and we wound up with Scream. Two terror titans. I mean, they're on the Mount Rushmore, right? But everything that came after those or in between those, I feel like is unfairly scrutinized and maybe held up to a standard that it's really hard for a film to get to. Not everything everybody does is going to be a home run. I mean, you need your doubles, you need your triples. Yes, I hate baseball, but the analogy fits here. And I try to find the good in everything he does because, one, I'm a dork, and two, I'm a big fan of the guy. And when watching 1991's The People Under the Stairs, we can find some seriously good standout moments in the oddest of places. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So the name of our central figure in this movie is Fool, and he's played by standout child actor Brandon Adams of Sandlot and Mighty Ducks fame. I mean, he's got a heck of a pedigree coming into this film. His real name in the movie is Poindexter, but we're not going to hold that against him. Now, Fool here has a really great bit of dialogue between him and his older sister Ruby during one of her tarot card readings for him as he's turning 13. Now, it gets ominous because she speaks of death and upcoming trials that will burn away the child and leave the man to come out the other side of it all. That's some pretty wild shit for your 13th birthday. But Fool and Ruby live in the slummiest of slums with their sick mother and another little sister. We here meet the always welcome Ving Rhames playing the role of Leroy, who I think it's Ruby's boyfriend. He tells Fool that the reason his mom's in the other room crying is because the landlords have evicted them and they have a day to get out because they were 3 days late with the rent. And when you're 3 days late with the rent, the landlords will make you pay triple, which is insane. But the plan is get these people out of there so they can tear the building down and build up something that's going to make them more money. It's the slumlord blueprint for success. No fear, though, Leroy claims to have quite the plan for Fool to pay the rent and then some. Now, in the next scene, that's when we meet the well-to-do slumlords and their timid daughter. Speaking of plans for what they're going to do when they get these last people out of their building, now these are clearly, in this scene, you can tell, these are clearly bad people, but it doesn't even scratch the surface about what we learn about these folks inside of that house. Leroy's grand scheme is to rob the people that have been robbing the community and kicking families out for decades. Now, it's during an argument with Ruby regarding involving Fool in this robbery that Leroy tells Fool that his mom's got cancer, that the reason that she's as sick as she is because they can't afford treatment for the cancer, and they have to have money to get that treatment. Now, Fool is great, and he's just perfect as a character. He's very loving to his mother, and he's got a really cool line with her when he says, "I'm going to buy you a Cadillac for each foot, Mama, and you're just going to glide throughout town." I thought that was really cool. I'm a mama's boy. I get it. Once we get back to the house with the slumlords, we learn that the girl there, her name is Alice. And she's terrified of these adults. She's played perfectly by A.J. Langer, which was another childhood crush of mine, but we won't go into all that. And Mommy Dearest, though, has nothing on this batshit woman that plays Alice's mom. And the dad here, he's some sort of crazy masochist obsessed with wishing people to burn in hell. He literally storms throughout his house and chants "burn in hell." There's something wrong with him. But he's also the Reverend from Silver Bullet. He's the guy that turns into the wolf. And he was fantastic there. And he's very, very imposing here as well. He does a great job in this role. At the request of the mother, though, because she senses Alice has lied to her about feeding the thing in the walls. And we'll get to what that is here shortly. But at the request of the mother, the father decides he's going to use a belt on Alice for feeding that thing, and he reminds her as he's about to do so, bad girls burn in hell. Very interesting parenting choices. So Leroy, Fool, and their little white friend Spencer pull up to the house, and they send Fool in to do recon dressed as a bear trooper trying to sell cookies. Now, when the crazy woman that lives there refuses to let Fool in to use the bathroom so he can get a better idea of what the security system inside the house is like, Spencer dresses up as a gas man and tries his hand, and he actually makes it inside the building. Shortly thereafter, though, they see the woman pull away from the house, and presumably Spencer's still inside of it. Leroy immediately suspects that Spencer is in there hiding all the good stuff for himself, and he takes serious umbrage with that. In fact, Leroy here saying that, yeah, maybe the president is going to make me the secretary of pussy was by far the line of the movie for me. I laughed so hard, even as an 11-year-old, not fully understanding what he's talking about. I laughed a lot at that line. With the lady gone, Fool and Leroy decide they're going to go ahead and go in. So they pull the van into the driveway and sneak inside. Unfortunately, though, they have an encounter with Prince, who is the not-so-friendly Rottweiler guarding the house. Once they subdue the dog, that's when they make some of the silliest mistakes in horror movie history. They decide to split up in this house. Leroy takes the upstairs, Fool takes the main level, and then eventually he works his way to downstairs because he sees Spencer's clipboard at the foot of the stairs. Now, there's a lot of weird noises coming from that cellar. Fool still decides, he's 13 now, he's a man, he's got to go down there and see what's going on. And that is one of the biggest mistakes he could have possibly made. Now, he finds Spencer down there, just ghost white. Whiter than he was when he went into the house, which leads to a great line later. And there's also all these things in the walls with flashlights, and they're making these funny, funky sounds. All of this starts coming at us at just breakneck speed. Fool wanted to leave about 20 minutes ago. He didn't want any part of this. Once he saw the dog chewing on Leroy, he was like, this is probably not the best career direction or life choice I could make right now. Fool winds up finding Leroy upstairs, tells him that he found Spencer and it looked like he was scared to death, which sounds silly, but it lays the groundwork for a great line from Fool when he says, if you thought Spencer was white before, you should see that sucker now. I popped for that one. Really good line coming out as Fool there. Now at this point, our creepy couple has made their way home and they see the van in the driveway. They decide that they're going to come in the house ready to kill. They're not calling the cops. They don't care about all that. They're going to handle this bit of business themselves. And sadly, Leroy is gunned down shortly thereafter. Now, he does scream for Fool to run. So you can tell at the onset, Fool is kind of taken with Leroy, and Leroy's amused by him. I mean, Leroy's not a good guy. But in his last moments, he's thinking of getting this little kid out of the house, which I thought was great. And I always tried to find something redeeming about Leroy anyways, because I love Ving Rhames. And I know this was a throwaway character, and he wasn't going to be around the whole movie. But gone too soon, buddy. I could have used a little bit more Leroy in this one. This is where Alice meets Fool, because he sees this doll that's been made that looks just like him in the hallway. It's tied to a string, and it's dragged across a hallway. This leads him to where Alice is hiding. Now, it tells you how big a house this is because Alice leads him to a portion of the house that they just don't use. That's how gigantic this place is, at least from the inside it looks that way. They have entire wings they're not using. And this is where we learn about the people under the stairs. The way it's told, this man and woman have been looking for the perfect little boy and perfect little girl, and all the boys have been really naughty, though, as boys tend to be. They either see evil, they speak evil, or they hear evil. Alice explains that Daddy cuts out the bad parts and then throws the boys in the cellar. Alice has pretended to be perfect this whole time, sheerly out of a need for survival.
I do not see or hear or speak evil. It's the only way.
Now, Roach is one of the boys that Alex explains Daddy hates because he got out of the cellar and got into the walls, and now Daddy can't find him. And then we see this character that is referred to as Daddy throughout the whole thing. I feel weird saying it. That's what they call him. They call him Daddy through the whole thing. We see Daddy here with an entire S&M outfit on, from hood to gloves to boots to the whole thing, with a gnarly looking shotgun, and he's walking, storming through the hallways of his own home, blowing holes in the wall, looking for Roach. Actually a really funny visual. Now, once this dad character realizes that there's another little boy or another person loose in their house that they don't know, he goes on a rampage. And there's a close encounter But then Fool winds up whacking this dude over the head with the back of a toilet. One of those toilet lids, one of those heavy ceramic suckers. And then Roach winds up helping Fool through the walls, leading us to a really cool scene involving Prince chasing after the both of them. Now, again, Alice helps them both because Alice is extremely helpful. She takes a big risk here, but she helps the two of them, and we get a little more of the creepy lore of the movie when she explains that the dolls that she makes, the reason they look like the people, the intruders from the house, is because she believes the dolls will hold on to the souls of these people after they've been killed by Mom and Dad. That's pretty intense. And that was a really cool way to explain it, even though she works fast, because Fool was in that house for a grand total of a half an hour, and he already had a doll that looked exactly like him, down to the details of the color of the clothes he was wearing that day. That's an impressive little girl. Then we have a major jump scare. Dad bursts into the room wearing his weird gimp outfit with his shotgun. Mom follows, smacks Alice around, something fierce. Dad grabs Fool, and he decides to use Fool to start cleaning up the mess in the house. Drags Leroy down to the cellar, throws them both down in there. It's just a really tense scene. Mom sends Alice down to clean up Leroy's blood in her white dress. Also a striking visual whenever you have that clean white dress and the blood that winds up all over it. Now this also pisses the mom off because she now got blood all over a nice white dress. So the mom throws her into a boiling bathtub to get herself clean and screams at her, "Scrub yourself," while the girl is crying out because of the temperature of the water. It's really, really intense. Speaking of intense, I had no idea that not only was the dad into S&M in weird outfits and high-powered rifles, but this guy is a cannibal. He's sitting there carving up Leroy's body in front of Fool, who's chained to a pillar, and he's eating it. He's got blood trickling down the corners of his mouth. He's also throwing chunks to the people under the stairs, or the kids that are in the cellar, and he claims that's really the only time that he ever feeds them is when he's got caught an intruder. Yikes, man. Now, when this mom and dad burst in the room just previously, they wound up getting shot off at Roach, who was escaping through the wall. And Roach is shot, and he's hurt, and he's in bad shape. But he does manage to help Fool escape the situation he found himself in just once more. He hands him a stack of gold coins, proving that there is, in fact, treasure in that house. And he asks, as best he can, for Fool to help Alice, because Roach had his tongue cut out for speaking evils. But he is able to relay to him, "You've got to help Alice." He winds up dying. Fool is able to escape, but he vows to come back for Alice because he jumps off of the roof of the building, and Alice is not a big fan of that idea. Now, I don't know why there was an attic window open in one of the most secure houses in horror movie history. I have no idea how that happened, but Alice isn't jumping off the roof. So Fool gets back with these coins, talks to his grandfather. His grandfather seems upset. He just found out his grandson broke and entered, stole, Leroy's dead. I mean, I would have caught a hell of a lot more of a tongue lashing than this kid does. But Grandpa Booker does tell him these coins will more than pay for any rent you have, and it'll take care of your mom's operation, which is exactly what you want to hear, right? But then he goes into some of the lore about the two people he stole from, and they're not actually man and wife. They're, in fact, brother and sister. And not only that, they don't have any kids of their own. They wind up kidnapping kids, and Alice has been kidnapped, and all the boys that they've wound up kidnapping and harming and throwing in the cellar, those kids were all stolen too. So Fool tells his sister of the plan to go back there, and his sister puts up no fight whatsoever, which is insane to me. But this is where we are right now. So this is a very strong ending, and there are several aspects of it that make this movie legitimately scary. I mean, the mom and dad are insane, and they've made this house a fortress, and escaping it gives us several tense moments throughout the whole thing. The dog amplifies the whole thing, and he's just formidable. The kids in the cellar are scary because, yes, they're victims too, but that environment has to have made them dangerous as much as anything in that house, really, because being starved, being neglected, I mean, I wouldn't want to come across them. The teens are believable and fun. AJ Langer's so good here as Alice, and Brandon Adams was one of my favorite actors of that era. He really breathes life into the character of Fool, and the ancillary characters are great because they're all played by really competent, recognizable actors. I mean, it's just a really strong cast. The story is creepy. The man and woman have endless funds. They're crazy as shit. And they're not used to not getting what they want. You know, think about it. They're kidnapping kids and mutilating them when they make a mistake before locking them in a cellar. I mean, that's about as evil a thing as you can do to somebody. So I give this movie an 8 out of 10. I don't want to go into the ending because I feel like it's one of the underappreciated Wes Craven films. So I think you should watch it. I really would suggest that. I mean, we just did Deadly Friend, which is another Wes Craven offering that I really enjoyed. And I'm liking the idea of going back and spending more time with some of his, you know, work that isn't on the Mount Rushmore of horror. You know, we love Freddy Krueger. We love Ghostface. I'll revisit them often. They're heavy rotation in my, I would say DVD player, but who uses DVDs anymore, right? What a talented and phenomenal man he was. You know, rest in power, Wes Craven. And this is Aging Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. You should subscribe. You should think about subscribing so I don't have to find you and throw you under the stairs. I'm not going to do that. That's weird. It just sounded cool considering the movie, you know, people living under the stairs. Subscribe, and we don't even have to worry about any of that. But I appreciate you guys. I'll see you all on the other side.